welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Codebreaker Episode 5. Now, if you remember from last episode, we see Toki, Ogami, and Sakura. They're all at this government facility which is doing research on different abilities, and again, Toki and Ogami, they're just attacking these bodyguards or security guards, what have you, and it looks like it was about done. And then out of nowhere, these two guys come right out of the building with special powers, one with wind, and the other one's manipulating water, but we don't know who they are, their names, nothing. And that's where the episode generally ended at. But again, that was last episode, and this is a brand new episode, so let's dive right in. And again, I'll keep my comment and my rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Now, we open up this episode not exactly where we left off, right away anyways. We see a girl, she's in a hospital bed. We do not know who she is or where she's at, just that she's in a hospital bed. And she's saying, I want to be like you, Fireball Man. And it looks like a little comic book. Now, I think she's like a codebreaker. She can use power, like some type of magic, or whatever you want to call it. And she has like this, her books like right in midair, right in front of her. And that's where the opening kind of ended. Now, we go to a different scene where it's exactly where we left off from last episode. We see Toki, we see Ogami, and with Sakura, and these two guys appear out of nowhere. Now, a little more background about these guys. They are part of the facility, and kind of interesting. They have these backpacks on with little tubes hooking up to their neck, so that's where they're getting their powers from. So they don't really have powers of their own. And again, we see a new character. His name is Mr. Tabata. And I guess he's head of this, he's the manager of this facility. So we get to see him with all these little kids in hospital beds. And there's a sad story behind this, but I'll get to that later. Moving on. Now we see another scene where we see Toki and Ogami and Sakura. Now they're in the facility, and Toki tells Sakura all about the Codebreakers, how we work underneath the Prime Minister. We're also a government-sanctioned organization. So they're not really the bad guys. They work for the government. They're equivalent of what a cop is to an extent, except, you know, a private division. So they're not the bad guys. They're the good guys. And Sakura was Sakura was very shocked. She was in awe. She's like, wait, you're the good guys? How's that work? You guys are just murdering people. But again, that's what they were talking about. And then Sakura's little dog, that puppy that Ogami gave her, kind of leaves the group and goes downstairs. It has the scent. It was like kind of like a bloodhound. That's not what its breed is, but it's smelling blood or something. And it goes into a room. We see different chairs with blood everywhere. And then we see Mr. Tabata appear out of nowhere. And we find out a little more about him other than he's the manager of this facility. He's a member of Diet. I have no idea what Diet is, or even if that's how you pronounce it. It's D-I-E-T. So it's kind of interesting. I've heard about that name before in another anime series, but again, I digress, I'm sorry. We find out that he's a member of Diet, and apparently Toki discovers, I guess there's a hidden room inside of this little facility, and we see organs, tons of these little not vials, but like big containers with organs in them. Apparently, Mr. Tabata was trafficking these organs. So he is the villain in this episode, kind of. Now, I said kind of, there's a reason. Now, out of nowhere, we see two guys, those same two guys that were outside, appear again. Now, I should say the reason why they're reappearing is because at the beginning, they kind of fled the scene because they ran out of power. And they reappear, and they don't really introduce themselves. We still don't know their names, but they are affiliated with Mr. Tabata, and it gets a little more eerie per se. Now we see Sakura. She notices their packs and points it out. What are these packs? I notice you guys are getting your powers from them. And here's the sad part: they're little kids inside of these backpacks. Yeah, that's how they're getting their power. They're harvesting these kids with supernatural powers. They're using them for juice, pretty much, for power, and it's really disgusting. I did not see this coming. But again, Sakura was the one that noticed this and points it out to Toki. Now, Toki and Ogami are now separated. Toki is outside with Sakura inside the building, just in a different room, and Ogami is faced off against the other guy with these supernatural abilities. Yet again, we do not know what his name is. And throughout this whole episode, we never know what these guys' names are, sadly, because they don't live. They die. And again, the guy that Toki and Sakura are fighting, we see a little boy. After they defeat this guy, we find out there's a little boy inside of his backpack. Now, these backpacks are made out of carbon fiber, so normal supernatural powers will not work. But Toki finds a way to go around that and just use all the scrap metal to take off the backpack and then kill this guy. And again, a little boy pops out, and he's like, "They killed my brother. They chopped my brother up to little pieces." It's like, oh my god. And the last words this kid said before he dies, because he does die, by the way, which is kind of sad, "Kill them." Now, the guy that Ogami's fighting, after he defeats him, out of that guy's backpack is a little girl. And all she said was, "They killed her." So this little girl that came out of that guy's backpack had a sister, and she was also killed. So that ain't cool. So now we know how these guys got their powers, what this research facility really has been doing, and no wonder why the Prime Minister said to take these guys down, because this is definitely not obviously what that facility was meant to do. For trafficking organs, using kids for extended research, and then killing the ones that fail. Yeah. Now we see Mr. Tabata. He kind of walks out and runs, and then you see a girl call him Daddy. And we're wondering, this is the same girl we saw at the beginning of the episode. Her name is Chaisa. And Chaisa is the manager's daughter, who's in a wheelchair, who has bad organs, and she's sick. She's waiting to get them to get an implant, new organs. That's why she's there. So this is kind of unfolding. See, this guy, he became an evil person only to save his daughter. So that's what I told you at the start of the episode. I'm like, he kind of is bad. He had good intentions, just they went sour. And again, it's just, she keeps saying to Ogami, "Oh, you're the fireball man," because he has all this blue flame around him. So it's kind of interesting. But that she was mistaken. He is not the fireball man. He's not a hero in no manner of speaking. But again, we find out she has bad organs. And Sakura's kind of, this is the part where I thought Sakura may have had some power. Just when Ogami was about to kill Mr. Tabata, up against the wall, was ready to go, Sakura slams her fist right into Mr. Tabata, beats the crap out of him. He's on the ground, left, right. And then after she was done hitting Mr. Tabata, out of nowhere she starts hugging him. And I did not understand what we were seeing. At one point in time, I thought maybe Sakura is going to get some special abilities. Maybe she's actually a code breaker. That's what we were actually waiting for. And that doesn't happen. And then after she's done beating the crap out of him, she hugs him. And then he starts crying, kind of, and then Mr. Tabata says, "Take care of my daughter," more or less. And he pushes Sakura aside, grabs his scalpel, and attacks Ogami, saying, "I'm the devil man. I'm sorry, Then he starts going after Ogami, and he's trying to make a scene so his daughter thinks he's actually the devil man, just so she doesn't feel bad about what her father actually did. And again, Ogami takes Mr. Tabata against the wall and burns him alive, and he dies. And thank God Toki was there. He actually held back Sakura from actually laying a finger on Ogami, because somehow I think she has an ability to cancel out code breakers, because she did it last time. I thought maybe she'd do the same thing, but no, Toki's there. Now, Chaisa gets off of her, before she gets off of her wheelchair, she uses her special ability to kind of stop Ogami, and we see like her comic book rips in half and says, "Well, you're no fireball man. I don't care if my dad was the devil man, he's my dad." And then she starts attacking him with her power, but that was short-lived because she passes out. She's still alive though, but she's passed out. And we see Ogami show more of his nicer side and says, "It's okay," like not in a nice way, he's like, "I want you to live, find me, because I will never forget you. You find me, you can come and kill me when you're older and you get more stronger." So he's giving her a reason to live without showing his nice side. So that was kind of nice of him. And Sakura definitely notices. But again, that was the end of that scene. And we move on to the next scene where we see Taisno, which was, I guess, the second in charge of the facility. He was Mr. Tabata's second in command, and he's on the phone, and he's like, yeah, Mr. Tabata's gone pretty much. He's feeding all this information to someone we don't know who. And guess what? Toki's outside, and he catches it. I'm like, smooth, Toki. He looks at Tosno, or whatever his name is. He's like, so I see your boss is probably on that phone, the guy that's pulling all the strings. Give me the phone. And then I guess Tasno, I hate pronouncing his name, but Taisno tells the guy on the phone, I need you to come here and help me, a codebreaker's here. And before you know it, the phone electrocutes him, and I guess whoever was on the other end is a codebreaker because he's using his power. And we find out, well, first of all, Taisno looks like he committed suicide even though he didn't. And Toki picks up the phone, he's like, okay, so who is this? You just know this, your guy just died. And it's Hitomi. Hitomi used to be a codebreaker. He's an ex-codebreaker apparently. And that's where that little scene ends. So now we definitely know Hitomi is a villain. He's pulling all the strings. Kind of interesting. Now we're taken to a different scene where we see the Prime Minister, and he's telling, I guess, one of his subordinates the kids have been moved from the facility to another facility called the 4th Research Facility. Now again, the Prime Minister at this point, he's a good guy, to our knowledge, just putting that out there, he's a good guy. Now we see a kid pop out of nowhere, and his name is Yukina, and again, Yukina, we've seen him in a previous episode, I believe. He was with Hitomi, and he works for Hitomi. And now this was kind of weird. The Prime Minister's like, so he's talking about Yukina's boss, Hitomi, I guess. Like, I wonder what he's doing. Like, what are you guys' plans? So I have no idea what their relationship or connection is right now. I really don't. But that was the end of that scene. And we see the girl being escorted from the research facility to the 4th research facility. I believe it was Chasa, and Chasa is on a stretcher. You see all these kids being moved. But that's the end of the episode. Now, as for final thoughts, right now, Hitomi, obviously, what's your background, man? Why are you doing all this? Why are you an ex-codebreaker? We don't know enough background to consider you a real villain right now. But this does feel like Full Metal Alchemist to an extent. It kind of does. Because, you know, it's just a little bit, mixed with Blue Exorcist. Now, another final thought. I'm kind of interested to see where Sakura is going to go from here, now that she knows that Ogami is part of the government. He works underneath the Prime Minister, so I'm wondering how that's going to work out. So, we'll find out. Maybe she has a power. We don't know. Also, is Toki going to be in this series more? Because he seems like a really great partner with Ogami, even though they're, two different people. Yeah, and I wonder if there's more research facilities like the one they just took down, too. I'm curious. But then as for my final thoughts, as per my rating, we saw a lot of blood, to an extent, got a lot of information, so 4.5 out of 5. Nah, 4 out of 5. How'd you go in there? Yeah, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. There wasn't enough bloodshed to give it a 4.5, but enough to give it a 4, so 4 out of 5. But again, that ends it for my walkthrough and review of Codebreaker Episode 5. Again, comment down below, thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe above, and definitely comment as much as you can. I'd love to hear your guys' comments on what you thought of this episode, as well as what you think is going to happen in the next episode. And again, check me out on Twitter and follow me if you like. Now, I still have one more walkthrough and review to do later on today, but I'll do that later on tonight. That's Exio Saga, Dimension Transfer. Exion, wow, I can't even say it right now. Exion Saga, Dimension Transfer. So, stay tuned. But again, that ends it for right now, so I'll be on later on tonight. I gotta say it, can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.